I first saw the Gerald Summers bent plywood armchair in the Kunstgewerbe Museum here in Berlin. They have this great little collection of iconic designs in their basement. And then after I had made the chair, in the first week of January, I was in London and I visited the V&A where they have one in their collection too. So so I had to check it out there. When I After seeing the plywood chair in Berlin, I decided with my daughter to make it as a kind of project to see if we could figure out making it ourselves. And we made this tiny model out of thin veneer, and it worked surprisingly easily. And then years later, or I think a year later, I'm not sure exactly the time, um, I managed to convince this man who I was working for and I'm still working for now that we should make the chair ourselves. Um, he he was building this new room and it needed some furniture, so I said, this could be really a real eye catcher. A couple of these chairs in the corner, looking out onto the pool he was building. He sells pools. So and I showed him one of the small models we had made, and right away he said, let's do it, which I knew him fairly well already, and knowing him as I did, that didn't surprise me so much. Although I have to say it was surprising just to get that kind of trust from someone, um, you know, was great, and also just the fact that I could really knock myself out. I could have a go without having to worry about all these all the time it would take, because obviously this wasn't something that would necessarily work with the first try, you know. So then I got to work, and this is a couple of months ago. I got to work, and I started to build the mold out of this very thick. It's called Leichbau MDF. So it's an MDF, but it's very light. It's 5 centimeters thick. So perfect for mold building. I didn't want the mold to be too heavy, so I used this light MDF. A little bit more about the design to begin with. So this design was first made almost exactly 90 years ago by this man called Gerald Summers, and it's very interesting. There's a book out, and I've read a little bit in the book. I need to buy the book myself, but I read it in the bookstore on Leicester Square. On Piccadilly Circus in London. The bookstore there had a copy, so I read a bit about the making of this chair, and so this chap Gerald Summers, he had started this kind of furniture business together with his wife, and they were making and selling furniture out of a cellar in London, out of a basement in London, and this chap who kind of walked through the door, he had this special request, and it was he wanted a piece of furniture that was um, that would be useful in the tropics, because he wanted it designed to be without any joints. All right, so ideally out of a single piece of wood. And this armchair is kind of what Gerald Summers came up with as a result of this client's request. Now, this was all told by his wife, who kind of ran the business for him, as I understand it. She was very instrumental in his having the business at all, and I believe she was called Marjorie. Um, so so she was retelling the story, and I think what she said is she can't remember if this person who actually whose idea whose request for this piece of furniture, if he ever actually bought one of these armchairs. But that's kind of a moot point anyways, as this armchair design, once it had been made, it was from right from the very start. It's a very singular, iconic design. 90 years ago, it was, and it is today. It's this very singular, iconic design in it, and it was immediately recognized as such. Later on, the thing is, so 90 years ago, that was 1934, and then very, very quickly, 39, the war happened, and then, as I understand it, Gerald Summers, the business was called Makers of Simple Furniture, which I think was a lovely name, and as I understand it, they went out of business simply because because of the lack of plywood due to the war. I expect quite possibly all the plywood would have been used for making airplanes to beat the Nazis. Anyhow, and then I believe he actually tried to go back into business after the war and was unsuccessful. So before the war, it is said that only 120 of these chairs were actually made, possibly even less. But famous people such as Billy Wilder, I believe he owned 2 of these chairs, and I find the design is many people in the years, I guess in the 60s and 70s, thought that Summers had been influenced by his contemporaries from Scandinavia, but actually it has since been proven that he designed the chair before it was possible that he would have seen these other chairs, made by Alvar Aalto or Saarinen or whoever it was who was also building these chairs in the early 30s along with him, right? So he came up with this design all by himself. He wasn't he almost certainly, wasn't influenced by them. He had this problem, right? The client came to him with this problem, and this chair was his solution to that problem, which I think is really really key to great design. Very often great design is a solution, is the most elegant solution to a very specific problem, and that's really what this chair is. If you've never seen it before and you look at it, very often it's immediately clear that, oh yeah, this was made from a single piece of plywood, that was bent, and lots of them are glued together, and then the form stays in this one form, and it has this beautiful profile. Anyway, so I had convinced this chap I've been working for that we should build these chairs, and then I cut out all the pieces for the mold, and as you can see here, glued and screwed the mold together out of the MDF. I'm not showing it on this video. I'll probably show this on other videos later on. When the mold like this was finished, it didn't fit perfectly. So I had to then change the mold. I had to sand some of it down, and then add some add some onto the seat and to the armrest as well to make it fit perfectly. I do intend to make another mold to make it fit better. But there it is. Anyways, after the mold had been made, I then got this 3mm plywood, and that's what I used. That's what I used to make the actual chair with on the mold. So so the chair is made. The chair is made out of 6 layers of 3mm plywood, so for a total of 18mm for the chair itself, right? And the interesting thing with the design is really that it's cutting the plywood for the mold. Almost all of the cuts are straight. Just the only curves are in between the front 2 legs. Otherwise, all the cuts are straight. And on the original chairs, which you can see in the museums, he made the cuts, I believe, on the table saw, and the cuts went over sometimes, so you can see these mistakes, if you want to call them that, where the cuts went further than they maybe should have gone, right? And that's obviously a luxury if you're in the position that I am in, where you have a CNC machine and you can just have the CNC machine cut the design, and that's obviously a lot easier. And in order to make this, we started out using just a normal white glue, wood glue, but that didn't work. So we ended up using the glue shown here, which is a glue that's specifically put together, mixed up for this kind of thing. And using this glue, you have 60 minutes, 60 minutes time to actually get everything on the mold in place and set, and then the glue will actually start to. Everything has to be fixed, and you shouldn't move anything after 60 minutes. And the interesting thing is making these armchairs. Once we had got that everything kind of sorted, it took us almost exactly 60 minutes to get all the glue between the layers, and then the chair and then the plywood onto the mold, ready to be fixed. And I developed this. I developed this method where I actually screwed the legs together right at the bottom, at the front and the bottom, just to make sure that once we were working on the mold, that the plywood wouldn't start to slip and get all. To make sure it wouldn't move too much, right? Like I said, to begin with, we were using the wrong kind of glue, so I think we made 2 or 3 chairs that were duds that we had to throw away, because basically the glue, obviously normal wood glue, hardens far too fast, and we were working as fast as we could, but it didn't really help. It was drying too fast, and then the chair itself, it would be in one piece, but you'd sit on it and it would creak, and it would obviously it wasn't nearly strong enough. So then once we started using the right glue, then it actually really started to work. And also with the clamping methods, that's something that we had to figure out as we were going along. So the first 2 or 3 times we were clamping a lot differently than later on, and as the more chairs we did, we've done more than 10 now. The better we got about clamping it all together, and what we usually do now is we'll clamp the whole thing up and then just let it set overnight, and then take it all apart first thing in the morning. The glue is also an expanding glue. You can see here some of the glue has kind of foamed out from in between the plywoods, the layers of plywood that have been pressed together. So gluing it all up is actually pretty fast. The work that I'm not showing in this video, I hope to do more videos, I suppose. Most of the work is actually sanding, but of course, as fun as it is, sanding is not so fun to watch. So we'll see about that. I've taken quite a lot of footage of that, but I don't know how fun that is to watch. Anyhow, this is removing it from the mold. The other thing I read about in the book, which was quite interesting, is that Gerald Summers, when he was making this chair, he developed this special colored shellac, which was colored whitish, which he used for this chair. And what I like to use is this oil or wax finish, just because it's nicer to. It feels nicer than a lacquer. It's the wood. The wood feels warmer through oil or wax than it does through a lacquer. It's not as shiny. It's not as polished, and it's warmer, which is, in my opinion, that's one of the best qualities of wood. Anyways, is it's warm to the touch. All right, well that's about all I have to say, and this is the end of the video anyways. So yeah, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video half as much as I did making it, then mission accomplished.